So pit, oh yeah, yins are crazy.
And welcome into a yinzercrazy.com special. We are absolutely elated to bring you our debut episode of Bucn Crazy. Yes, of course, it's dedicated 100% to your Pittsburgh Pirates. And we're absolutely thrilled to bring some of our esteemed columnists from yinzercrazy.com to help us out and give their hot takes on all upcoming things Pittsburgh baseball related. Let's introduce them to you first. We have Elliot Hicks and Dave Stegon. Guys, how are you guys tonight?
Doing well. Glad to be getting the show rolling for sure. Thanks everyone for watching.
Dave,
I'm excellent. I am ready to talk some Pirates because anytime you get a chance to talk about a baseball team that is 20 games under 500 and it's not even the 4th of July, you have to do it.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that is for sure. We always keep it real here over at Yins Are Crazy. We can laugh about these things a little bit, but we're also going to bring you some pretty solid content in the meantime. And I want to mention that we have a guest who's going to appear in just a handful of minutes here who is going to help us bring some of that awesome content to the table. He is none other than former Pirates backstop Michael McHenry, of course, current broadcaster for AT&T Sports Pittsburgh, and we have a great conversation with him upcoming about a handful of Pittsburgh Pirates related topics. And I want to mention that that's something that we're going to bring you all year on Bucn Crazy. You're always going to get a little bit of David, a little bit of Elliot, and a little bit of myself, Mike Nicastro. But of course, we're going to bring you fun guests to help with the Pirates content as we move along. So let's move right along and jump into our big story of the week. Our number one headline in leading off has to be Mitch Keller, guys. And unfortunately, it's not on a positive note. Dave, you wrote an article earlier today comparing Mitch Keller to Charlie Morton and actually advocating that we give this guy another chance down the line. If anybody missed it, he was optioned to Indianapolis AAA this past week after his struggles continued with the big club. Dave, elaborate a little bit more on that story. And is it too soon to give up on Keller?
No, it's not too soon. This guy, listen, he's been absolutely awful this season. Anybody who's watched him pitch, it's hard not to get frustrated as he's walking guys, as he is, unable to locate his fastball. When he does get in a strike zone, the ball gets hammered 7,000 feet. He has been absolutely terrible. But what I was trying to look at is, everybody wants to compare Keller to Tyler Glasnow, our, former pitcher who got all the hype, and then once he hit the major leagues, couldn't do it. And, that's fair. But I was also trying to think back of when else, this could have happened. And, Charlie Morton was once, a guy with a very live arm, people had high hopes for. And, 2010, he had an ERA about, 7 or 8 this time of year, got sent to AAA about the same time of year, and essentially just got kind of a timeout. I think it was, management's decision to go, all right, Charlie, listen, this ain't working, buddy. Let's take a deep breath. Let's go to AAA. Let's figure couple things out. Let's get out of the spotlight a little bit and kind of come back strong and try to figure things out. So there is still time for Mitch Keller. Granted, it is running out a little bit, but we can't give up yet.
Elliot, go ahead and jump in. I know that you obviously have been watching Keller from afar, and of course, probably have some mixed feelings as well in regard to where you stand about his potential with the team.
Yeah, I know that maybe it's a little too soon to compare him to Glasnow because they're obviously not the same pitcher. They both have different talents and things like that. But I've been calling Mitch Keller Glasnow 2.0 for at least a year now because I think that's exactly the path he's headed down, which it says a lot about the Pirates that was probably going to be the case with another super talented pitcher. But it also says a lot about what they think of Keller right now. That, as we said, this team is, to put it bluntly, we'll just say not very good. I won't be quite as mean as I was going to be about this Pirates team. They're not very good. They can let him eat innings and work things out in the big leagues because they're not really worried. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're not worried about what that record is at the end of the year. So it really says a lot that they did make the decision to send him down to AAA. And I think the point that you made, David, about comparing that to Charlie Morton, what happened to him about a decade ago, sending him down, I think it is a good chance for him to hit the reset button, get back to the basics, get back to harnessing that raw talent that we know he has and we know that he's had for all these years that he's been arguably our top pitching prospect. And I think that it is possible that if he can hit the reset button, get everything done well, that he still can be a top pitcher on the next Pirates playoff team or even on the bridge to the next playoff team, however long he decides to stick around. But this is really going to be the last shot. I mean, if he comes back up in a month and is terrible, I think you just got to pull the trigger on him. And it really is going to suck because we'll trade him to Tampa Bay or like the Angels or something, and he'll be a phenomenal pitcher for the next 5 years. And it'll just be unfortunate to see him succeed outside of Pittsburgh. But I feel like that is far more likely than him becoming a great pitcher again, is him, not doing it in Pittsburgh and doing it somewhere else.
I mean, that's probably, the case. And that it gets scary to think that. And I was looking, Keller had 2 options left coming into the season. So he has this year, he can be sent to the minors, and he has next year, he can be sent to the minors without having to go through waivers. So the Pirates basically can see this out through the end of next year before they have to keep him on the 26-man everyday roster. So I really think he has until the end of next year. And if we're still kind of doing this stuff, then you really got to start to think, okay, do we just let this guy go? Do we need to trade him? And, this is critical. The Pirates, they got to hit on guys like this. We are not in a place where we can be throwing away talent. We can be throwing away potential. If they're going to win again, we need guys to succeed. We need what it was. I think, Mike, you made this point on Twitter. Pittsburgh used to be a place for pitchers to come and rejuvenate their career. A.J. Burnett, Francisco Liriano, guys would come back. Even Mark Melancon was terrible before he came to Pittsburgh. And then he was, the poor man's Mariano Rivera there for a few years. So the Pirates have to hit on this. They have to figure it out. They can't, just let guys like this go somewhere else and figure it out. This is, fixing guys like Keller and not letting this happen. They're just never going to win if this doesn't happen.
Yeah, the list goes on and on, Dave. Edinson Volquez, Jay Happ. Ton of players, obviously, under that race series tutelage that came over and were turned around and ultimately led to some of those really successful teams, of course, in the past decade. Dave, I thought you made a really interesting point as well in your piece about his lack of deception. That's something that always sticks out to me when I watch Mitch Keller, is how straight his fastball is. Obviously left-handed hitters are absolutely crushing him this season. So developing a cutter, as you also alluded to in the article, maybe something that Joe Hanrahan can work on with him in AAA to hopefully bring him back and get him at a point where he can be a successful major league starter again. But I think I lean with Elliott right now at this point in that, you can't write him off, but if I had to bet everything in my pocket, will he ever be a great pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates? Probably lean no. And that's just too bad. All right, let's move on. One thing maybe that could have helped him be a better pitcher, and I mean this in a lighthearted sense, is a sticky substance. And it's obviously at the forefront of all of our minds right now because baseball is really cracking down on foreign substances. And it really is a hot button issue. I want to get into this. And I want to get this quote right because Rob Manfred issued a statement today, the commissioner of Major League Baseball, of course. And he said, after an extensive process of repeated warnings without effect, gathering information from current and former players and others across the sport, 2 months of comprehensive data collection, listening to our fans in thoughtful deliberation, I have determined that new enforcement of foreign substances is needed to level the playing field. Well, what does that mean? It means that baseball will issue a 10-game suspension to pitchers found with a foreign substance anywhere on their body. Starting pitchers will be checked more than once a game, and relievers will be checked once. All right, initial takeaway, Elliot, what is it?
I think that this is ultimately going to be good because I do like, in the spirit of the game, in the same way that you let hitters use pine tar, batting gloves, things of the sort. I think pitchers using rosin, they give them the rosin bags on the back of the mound, even like sunscreen or maybe even a little bit of pine tar like we saw on Pineda's neck. What was that, 6 or 7 years ago? That's all right, but you have the spider tack, all this sticky stuff, all these substances, and that's where it's starting to get to the point where obviously I'm not going to go as far to compare it to steroids, but that's just a little too far, especially now because hitting across Major League Baseball is just absolutely in the tank. You have entire teams right now, even good teams like the New York Yankees. I mean, all the great talent that the Yankees have on the roster right now, regardless whether they're in slumps or not, they're not even hitting, let alone, if the Yankees can't hit, what in the hell chance does a team like the Pittsburgh Pirates have to hit against this stuff? Not only are pitchers throwing 100-mile-an-hour fastballs basically on the norm now, but you have that compared to sticky spider tack they can put on their hands to make sure it lands exactly in the strike zone. I think that enforcement is good. It's obviously going to make a lot of people mad. There's going to be at least one manager, one player, somebody who's just going to completely lose it when they get checked, whether they're doing it or not, whether they were doing it before the new enforcement and now they're trying to change things. It's going to be extremely interesting to see how this goes. I think, guys like Joe West may be more likely to enforce while some younger umpires may decide they're going to kind of have a hands-off approach. But regardless, I'm really interested and intrigued to see how this is going to go and how long that it's going to stick with this particular enforcement rules. You said multiple times a game for starters.
So for me, the one thing that stands out here is it's a 10-game suspension with pay. I would give anything to get a 10-day suspension from my job with pay. I will do whatever I need to do. Tell my boss I will do anything. 10-day suspension with pay. Hello, vacation.
You're going to come out with maple syrup covered in a baseball covered
Yeah.
in just maple syrup eating from it.
Yeah, I'm literally going to have a ball and be pouring Elmer's glue on it on the mound and be like, what are you going to do about it? Come at me, bro. Obviously, from a more serious standpoint, the hitting, it's gone too far. As Elliot said, we have seen hitters just cannot do anything against these guys, and it has moved it too far. And it's really funny to see you look at, to get in the nerd weeds a little bit. You go on Fangraphs and you see all these guys, their RPMs on their pitches are down 20, 30%, including old friend Garrett Cole, who is really bad at talking to the media when he got confronted with it the other day.
Yeah, and I also want to bring up Tyler Glasnow, guys, who is another old friend, a guy who's thrived in Tampa, of course, and unfortunately it just came out today that he has a partial UCL tear and that he'll obviously miss significant time. And Glasnow was immediate, and I mean immediate, to blame, for lack of a better word, the substance issue. He was quoted as saying, I just threw 80-something innings, and you just told me I can't use anything. I have to change everything. I truly believe 100%. That's why I got hurt. I'm frustrated that MLB doesn't understand. You can't just tell us to use nothing anymore. It's crazy. And reportedly, what he was using was sunscreen because it is hot down there in Tampa, even though I think they're playing in a dome the majority of the time. But that was something that obviously, from his standpoint, from a pitcher's standpoint, Dave, and I'll start with you, do you at least understand why they would feel that way towards this quick of a ban when it's something they've been doing so consistently? Or do you have no sympathy for cheating?
It really depends on who's cheating. If some of the Pirates were, jacking up RPMs and we had a bunch of ERAs in the low, twos, I'd probably be a little bit more open to it. One of my running jokes during the steroid era is the Pirates obviously were not doing steroids enough to keep up with the masses. And I don't know if they were doing it, too much recently with the Spider Tack. What I'll say, though, is, it is hard to make a change middle of the season, but it's hard to have too much sympathy when it's against the rules. Anybody who's played baseball from when you're 8 years old lining up, you don't do that kind of stuff. And I understand, listen, you're a professional pitcher. You want every edge you can. But to claim, you changing the rules and enforcing something that was always illegal causing me to get hurt, cry me a river.
Jump in, Elliot.
I will really quickly defend Garrett Cole's answer, the viral one the other day. I think the guy straight up asked him, have you used Spider Tack? Obviously, he can't say no. He doesn't want to say no if he has, and then they find out that he has. But he can't just say, oh, yeah, I used this thing that we're now suspending people for 10 games for. So I will defend that a little bit. In terms of Glasnow, yeah, I would be really upset, too, if, they're taking all these advantages away from me. And then first start without him, I find out I just could have tore my UCL. Tommy John surgery is no fun for anybody. And I don't remember if Glasnow ever went through that with the Pirates, but it seems like most of the Pirates' top prospects had it happen to them. So I'm not sure if he had a previous arm injury or not. But I think that to say that one game was responsible for this UCL tear, I mean, I'm no health expert, but I feel like that's an injury that, kind of accrues over time. The amount of years he's been pitching real hard like that. And if he never has had a UCL tear, I should be, marks against me for not knowing that off the top of my head. But I don't think that's something that just happens after one game that you pitch. So it is unfortunate to see players get injured, regardless of your opinion on them or whether he was cheating or not. But I can't really be happy or particularly support this quote in any way, regardless.
Elliot, you are a guy who yells about baseball on the internet. You are a medical professional. You can say whatever you want. It doesn't matter. You're a doctor. I fully grant you those powers.
See, if I was just on Twitter as an independent entity, I would completely agree with you. But representing these couple of websites, I don't want to make Mike look bad trying to say I'm a doctor and no UCL.
Well, nothing like being proclaimed a doctor by the guy who just said that he would do anything to take 10 days off of work, including drenching a baseball in maple syrup. No, you got to love it. Let's talk to a guy who knows a thing or two of course, about catching these pitchers, and a guy who's probably caught Tyler Glasnow at some point. We're going to ask him about this current Pirates group. We're going to talk to him a little bit about Adam Frazier and his push to an all-star bid, JT Brubaker and his ascension, and a handful of other topics. He is none other than the Fort Michael McHenry.
What's up? How you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
We're great. Thanks for jumping on. We've, of course, enjoyed your analysis all season long on AT&T Sports. And as somebody who's frequented those halls before, man, I have to ask, I know there's a lot of expensive equipment around there, and you're often carrying a bat because you're doing all these demos, Fort. Have you nearly broke something yet?
Yes, I actually almost broke a light the other day, but it wasn't actually at AT&T. It was over at the ballpark. We were doing a show from over there. I had like a kind of like a dummy ball. It was like this big, and I threw it at Robbie and Smikowski. It bounced off his head, hit the light. Luckily, he grabbed the light and saved the day, or that would have been about a probably $500, $600 purchase on my part. So I got saved by Robbie and Smikowski. He showed his athletic ability. So if anybody's wondering, he is pretty athletic.
That's incredible, man. And you know what? I love that. I love Robbie. And finally, a glimpse that maybe he was an athlete back in his day.
I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Like, we need to take one step at a time. He's still got a lot to prove.
My old rule of thumb was if anything goes wrong, just blame it on Dave or Keeney. So that one still sticks. Speaking of Dave's, I got Dave Stieg on with us. He's a Pirates contributor for the site. Dave, I know you want to talk before.
No, of course. It's happy to have you, Michael. I laugh as you have one of the great nicknames we've had in Pirates in the last 10 years. I don't even think my dad knew your name. He just knew you were as the Fort. Every time we talked, the Fort did this, the Fort did that. Another guy I want to talk about is the Cheetah, who has my favorite nickname now for the Pirates. Is a guy, you were a major league catcher for so long, and we've really seen Jacob Stallings turn into one of the better catchers in all of Major League Baseball. I'm just a dude watching on my couch. Can you tell me what is it that he does so well that you as a former big league catcher will kind of look at and tip your hat and go, yeah, this guy's good?
So I think the first thing you have to look at is kind of how he got here. Resilience, grit, determination. He wasn't a guy that was necessarily looked at as like, hey, this is the frontline guy. He's the future. He got designated just 3 years ago, kind of fought his way back. But what's cool about Stallings is he put in the time and effort off the field to study what was going on. He was always known for his defense, and then all of a sudden he was getting bad defensive ratings. He can't receive, blah, blah, blah. It's going on and on and on. So he went and did the research. Then he started asking questions. I was lucky enough to be a part of some of those conversations just around, their catching coach, Kevin Roach, watching video and trying to figure out how can he enhance his ability. And, man, did he ever put in the work? It was all him. He got the right pieces to help him along the way, but he put in the time, the work. And then the biggest other attribute I'd say is his ability to control a game and manage the guys that are in front of him 60 feet, 6 inches away. That's a special gift. It kind of goes unnoticed a lot of times because they don't really talk about the ERA stat as a catcher for that Gold Glove, but they should. And he's one of those guys that, he hasn't been on necessarily the best teams over the last 3 years, but he's managed to help guys along the way.
No, and I think what's been amazing about him is you look at him, he's already age 31. He's one of those guys who's worked really hard for years and years to become an overnight success. He is really playing at a high level right now, and I know other teams are kind of looking at him. And you mentioned, that relationship 60 feet, 6 inches away. What can you talk a little bit about just what goes into being a catcher in Major League Baseball? Because you have to manage the pitcher, and then you got to deal with the blocking. You got to listen to the pitching coach. And then, you got to step in there and Jacob deGrom is going to throw 100 miles an hour at you. What can you talk about how hard that is?
It's extremely hard. When Jacob deGrom's pitching, you just pretend like it's a little leaguer because he's absolutely unfair. You got to imagine something else out there or you have no shot. The reality of it is it's the hardest position on the field. And if anybody says otherwise, they don't know what it's like to put on the gear, deal with an umpire, kind of walk through the game with him, kind of stroke his ego at times. At other times, make sure that, hey, dude, you got to get that right for my guy. He's really working hard on keeping the ball off of you. And the game's constantly shifting, right? We're watching the game literally change overnight. On June 21st, they're going to start suspending players for using substance on the ball. Really don't have an idea of what that looks like. They're putting a lot of control back in the umpire's hands. So once again, the catcher's going to have to mitigate a lot of those things, keep them away from him, and make sure that, hey, this guy's a good dude. He's not doing anything out of the ordinary. He just had some sunscreen on and happened to touch the rosin bag. Whoops. And at the end of the day, like, that's what you have to do. You're kind of managing the game within the game. You're the only player off the field to play that's actually, closer to the dugout than you are a lot of the players on the field. So I always said I was an extension of the coaching staff. I needed to understand how the manager was going to manage the game. The bench coach was going to help me mitigate the running, and then also the pitching coach and the bullpen coach of maybe who's coming in, set yourself up the right way, and navigate a lineup, all while you're trying to be Dr. Phil for the guys 60 feet, 6 inches away.
That was also going to be another one of my questions, because we've seen, Mitch Keller just got sent down, and he's the guy. He has enormous talent. Pirate fans were waiting for him to, put it all together. When he's out there and he's having a rough inning, or really any pitcher, because even Jacob deGrom has his, innings where he's 25 pitches in, there's 2 guys on base, there's only 1 out. When you're the catcher and you're Dr. Phil, do you hype him up? Do you be like, you got this, brother? Do you try to calm him down? Or you just be like, I'm just going to shut up and catch? Like, what's your mindset there?
So I'm a believer, instead of a philosophy, I go by the personality. And a Jacob deGrom, I may punch him in the chest, and it's going to fire him up, and he's going to lock in. With the Mitch Keller, it's kind of playing the game within the game in his head. He's a guy that, he's losing some confidence. He's never really failed. I have to kind of figure out what's going to make him tick. The other day against the Dodgers, Mookie Betts hits a homer off of him in the first inning, and then I watch him throw 98, 98, 97, 98, 97 to finish out that inning. It was remarkable. Where's that guy? How can I pull that out? How can I squeeze that orange and get that out of him all the time? And that's my job. That's what I have to figure out every single day. It's not about me. Hopefully they never even know I'm there. That's the best catcher, best umpire in the world, and best offensive lineman. If they never know I exist, it means I did my job very well. If they know I exist, that means I probably messed up some way, shape, or form. So I just want to figure out a way to make him tick the right way. And sometimes it's going to be different than others. I'll go a little deeper for you in the sense of I need to be able to manipulate the ball. And that's one thing Mitch Keller, and one thing I will knock kind of what I've seen throughout the league is if a guy's missing low or high, do extremes. There's a scientific method behind this, but do the extremes. Like if Mitch Keller's missing high, and high and arm side, get him throw a breaking ball in the dirt in the left-handed batter's box one time. Maybe it's in the warm-ups to reinforce all those good mechanics and make sure he's getting everything out front. That's something he's got to own. It's not something that necessarily Stallings could do or Perez could do or even Oscar could do. It's something he's going to have to own and know how to get back into counts, because if he doesn't understand that, then when Stallings is thinking about 50,000 other things and he knows that's what he needs to do, that's when that next level of success will come.
We're talking with former Pirates catcher, the Fort, Michael McHenry, here on Bucn Crazy, a YinzerCrazy.com special. Michael, guy that I feel like you would punch in the chest, sort of has that mentality, is JT Brubaker. And he's been absolutely dynamite for the Pirates all season. Can you just talk about his mentality, what you've seen from your perspective, and why you think he's going to continue being a successful big league pitcher?
Man, did you ever absolutely nail that one? I mean, he is a guy, he's got the competitive nature. And even if you've heard his parents speak on Inside Pirates or when they interviewed him during the game, you can tell that's kind of how he was raised. Like, go out there and figure out a way to win. And just last night, we watched him kind of pitch with 2 pitches, more of a cutter than a slider, and he was able to work through the lineup, get into that 6th inning, and give the Buccos a chance. So he's a guy that you want on your team. I don't care if you're a Dodger or if you're in Anaheim or New York, big market team. He's a guy you want on your team, and you'll find a place for him because he's going to get better, and he's going to continue to work. He's never going to be satisfied. And last night, watching him only strike out 1 guy and get through that lineup, through 5 innings, 2 runs was really impressive. And I think that's what kind of marvels the mind of a lot of people sometimes, because he's a little different every single day out. He may strike out 10 next time, but he's going to adapt and he's going to continue to grow. And that's what you need with a team like the Bucs. You need guys that are going to go out there and compete.
Yeah, he certainly has a Bulldog mentality. And let's transition to another Bulldog as we wrap up here with former Pirates catcher Michael McHenry. You have some Colorado connections, of course, your former home. Adam Frazier, former Mississippi State Bulldog, How the heck do we get him to the All-Star game, Michael? Can you spearhead that campaign for us? Let's get him to Colorado, man. We need you on this.
Yeah, I've been on it since about the first month. He's one of my favorite guys on the team. I also think Brian Reynolds is very deserving of it. If you look across the board analytically and kind of the upfront numbers, both guys are leading the league in almost every category at their position. So I hope both of them get in. And yes, I will be pushing Frage, but I will be pushing Reynolds. And they're both Tennessee dudes now. So
love it. If you didn't know, McKenry, Nashville guy. Hey, let's finish up. David, I know you want to jump with a couple rapid fire questions just for fun. Hit them.
Yeah, no, we got the lightning round here. So some easy ones and a few tough ones. Mike, favorite moment as a Pirate?
Blackout game.
Blackout game, not the home run off Marmol?
Yeah, I'm a team guy. So, like, individually, yes, but the blackout game, I mean, I was on the DL. I got a standing O, man. Like, walking out, that was the second day I was off crutches. I mean, think about that. And I'm walking out, they give me a standing O. It's all black. The C, I felt like I was in the Black Pearls. Unbelievable.
Best pitcher you've ever faced?
Ooh, good question. Well, it depends on the day, right? So I faced DeGrom. He wasn't as good as he is now. Rick Porcello was absolutely disgusting the day I faced him. And I will forever say that day he had his best stuff. He threw a complete game. It was absolutely remarkable.
Was that in Detroit?
I believe it was in Detroit. It was either 8 innings, complete game. It's just lights out. And that was the day after, the day before Verlander went 8 innings and a third. I believe J.A. broke it up.
I remember that series.
Faced a lot of good guys. But yeah, Porcello for some reason was just lights out. Maybe it's the shadows. I have no idea, but I thought he was from another planet.
Major league player, you were on the road a lot. When the game's over, you're on the team plane, you got an hour or two to kill. What are you doing? Are you watching game film? Are you cracking a book, Netflix, cards with the boys in the back? What's your go-to on a trip?
I was a floater, you know. I was kind of like a team floater. I would do a little bit of everything. I would hang out with the guys. Sometimes I just needed to kind of like Netflix and chill. Other times I would play cards. The one thing I did not do is I did not play for money. Once I got to the big leagues, they played for way too much money. So I stayed away from that. You know, those card games, I was like, no, let's go over here and play Pluck or something. That's a little too much for me.
Favorite road city to visit?
Ooh, good question. Probably San Diego.
Yeah, that's a good choice, strong choice. Least favorite road city to visit?
Detroit.
Detroit? I was going to say Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati's a dump, but that's just me.
Well, I always had friends and family come up to Cincinnati. So I felt like, you know, Detroit's really revived itself over the last 5 or 6 years. But, like, you know, after the recession, it was really struggling along. The only thing that was even close was a casino.
Yeah.
So there wasn't really anything around the hotel. You walk to the ballpark. I love the ballpark. But, yeah, the city was kind of rebuilding itself.
I thought you were going to say because of Rick Porcello and Justin Verlander. I was like,
that's what I was going to say.
And don't forget Max Scherzer was there at that time.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So, right. Hey, let's show up and play. No, let's go home. Let's leave.
What's your favorite ballpark you've ever played in, and you can't say PNC?
Coors Field.
Coors Field. That's a fair one.
Or Wrigley. I don't know.
Or Wrigley.
Coors Field was like just a beautiful place. Wrigley, that history, it's just special.
I know you're a big gym guy. You like to throw the plates around. What's your favorite lift? Squats, power clean, deadlift? What do you like to do when you get in there?
Come on, one more. Come on.
One more. Clean and jerk?
I'm not a jerk, but snatch.
Snatch. Okay.
I love snatch.
Okay. I'm a squat guy myself. I'm all legs and butt, so like I was just built to squat. But yeah, snatch. You got a lot of moving parts there. That's a real skill lift.
Going on. It's a lot of fun because of how hard it is. But yeah.
Robbie Spakowski is not doing that one. I'll throw that one. I know that one. You could tell Mike McCastro said that.
Yeah, he's more a like a bar or like a calisthenic type guy. Yeah.
No, kidding.
Ultimate stretching or tag.
And now I did love this because I looked it up. I had to look up your college statistics. I always love seeing what major league players did before then. Junior year, you hit 390, 494 on base, 676 OPS. I know you were drafted out of that year. Did you think of coming back as a senior and being like, I'm just going to hit 600 this year, hit 50 home runs, and just enjoy the hell out of myself for 1 year? Did you ever think of doing that?
I was 3 rounds away. I always said I wouldn't go as a junior unless I went below 10 rounds. So I had a marker, and luckily I got picked. I think it was 198 overall. So I was happy, and that means I would go. I made that decision way before the draft even happened. I think I was 17 when I made that decision. So.
Love it. I love it. All good
Awesome.
stuff.
Well, that's all my questions. Thanks.
That is so much fun. And of course, learned a lot. We hope you don't break anything over there in the studio. We love the demos you're doing. Look for him almost nightly on AT&T Sports, of course. We got Nats Buccos series, and then the Indians come to town this weekend. The Fort McKenry, you are the best. Thank you so much, sir. Always a great time.
Yeah, thank you, guys. God bless. Really appreciate you.
Cannot thank the Fort, one of the best nicknames in Pirates history, enough for spending some time with us in the debut episode of Bucn Crazy. We're supported by yinzercrazy.com. We're brought to you by the GOAT Sports Bar in Seven Fields. Make sure you check them out for all future Bucco games moving forward. And Dave, we just talked about the Fort's incredible year of college there, where he nearly hit at a 400 clip. Well, there's another guy in minor leagues who is absolutely tearing it up right now for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Somebody who's on all of our radar, hoping that he gets up to Indianapolis soon to play with Mitch Keller, and his name is O'Neal Cruz. Dave, I'll start with you. We know how he got here. We talked about it a few episodes back in another episode of the Yinzer Hour, the Tony Watson trade a handful of years ago with the Dodgers. And this is a guy that has ascended through the Pirates system rapidly, and we can't wait to see him at PNC Park, right? When is it going to happen?
That's a good question. The Pirates put him in Double-A this year to start, and I think that was kind of a conservative move. I think they wanted to see him play shortstop, how he was going to handle the bat, opposed to putting him right in Triple-A. It's time to put the dude at least in Triple-A. I don't know if he'll get to Pittsburgh come September, but he is hitting bomb after bomb. If you follow the Altoona Curve Twitter account, it is nightly highlights of him just basically smashing balls into the roller coaster that is out in right field, out in Altoona. He has been fantastic, and he's one of those prospects, very raw, lots of tools. The guy is 6'7". If he fails as a baseball player, you could put him, out wide, put Juju in the slot, and just let him run deep balls all day and let Big Ben throw him up to him and see if he can bring it. Guy has a ton of promise, and he's really putting it together in an exciting way so far this year.
Yeah, Cruz is honestly just an absolute beast. I remember he was first on my radar after that trade at spring training, maybe 2, 3, maybe even 4 years ago, just hitting an absolute bomb down in Bradenton. And again, there was that one particular home run the other night with Altoona where he didn't just hit it into the roller coaster. I'm pretty sure he hit it over that roller coaster in right field. Of course, in Altoona, one of the cool wrinkles in that ballpark, the roller coaster in right field. I think it's definitely time to bring this guy up to AAA. I don't think that we need to rush him and bring him up to Pittsburgh too soon. I feel like we've seen that happen with some guys before, and it just has kind of messed up their swing, maybe messed up their development a little bit. With the way these Pirates are right now, they're not going to be seriously contending for a couple of years. There's no need to rush him, but I'm certainly for giving him a chance in AAA. He's been raking. I see the stat lines here. He's hitting, 300 batting average, a whole bunch of home runs. He's doing great down there, and regardless of where he ends up defensively, of course, the 6'7" shortstop, not something you see all that often. Who knows where he'll end up? It seems like he's fairly decent defensively. I don't think we need to worry about that too much, especially if he keeps hitting the way he is. Send him up to Indy, give him a shot, even leave him there the rest of the year, even the first half of next year. Make sure that he's as refined and as close to perfect as you can get him. Bring him up to Pittsburgh, and hopefully he's the next star shortstop or wherever the heck he's playing defensively. Hopefully he's one of the next Pirate stars. He's definitely got the potential.
Now, you guys can tell me if I'm crazy on this. So in watching the O'Neal Cruz clips, when I first saw him in spring training, I was worried because they said he was rooming with Gregory Polanco, and everybody knows how much I absolutely love Gregory Polanco. And I was scared I was seeing a little too much Polanco in his swing. It was going to be a little too long. But now as I watch Cruz a little bit more, I think if you shrink your eyes and you're just a little out of focus and you just kind of look at it the right way, I see hints of Barry Lamar Bonds in that swing. Am I insane?
I wouldn't say insane. I think that might be a little bit of a lofty comparison for sure. But again,
no pressure.
Nothing but potential. Yeah.
Obviously he is not going to.
Barry Bonds had for sure.
I'm saying, and you look at the build, he's a tall, lanky guy. He looks like he's really shortened up his swing. You're seeing him really quick to the ball. A guy who's really, some of these massive home runs, really just turning on pitches that are high in the zone, even from lefties. Guy with a really quick swing. Obviously, he's not going to be Barry Bonds, but I'm just saying you can kind of see it if you want to squint a little bit. I'm trying to aim high,
Barry
folks.
Bonds has a treat on there. How's that sound?
Yeah. I mean, hey, we've lost 8 games in a row on the big league level. I have to dream. I have to be able to lay in bed at night and see O'Neal Cruz winning an MVP award out in right field for the Pirates. You know, this year we got to be excited about the guys, you know, in the minor leagues. And O'Neal's giving everybody a little bit of hope. And, you know, with him and my buddy Nick Gonzalez coming up, and we actually have a fun night on the minor league mound tonight. Quinn Priester's pitching. I believe is Rosny pitching down in the Double A. So, you know, there's a lot of Pirates talent out there, just none of it's in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and I think once again, no pressure, O'Neal Cruz, just comparing you to, in some people's minds, the greatest player to ever walk the diamond. But you know what? I'm interested that you mentioned his position. Elliot brought that up initially. Obviously, I don't think there's much of a chance he ultimately sticks it short. It was a bit of a pipe dream. I hope he does stick in right field, because I have a sneaky feeling, and Bob Walk won't like this very much, that in a few years when he is maybe here in Pittsburgh full time and that DH is in Pittsburgh full time, that he could eventually slot into that spot. And hey, listen, if his bat is going to keep walking the walk, it might not be the worst problem to have. I just always like maximizing the guy's value on the field, because I think DHs, of course, are a little bit easier to come by. Just by nature. All right. Hey, listen, O'Neal Cruz has excited us. I hope Bucn Crazy has excited Yins out there. It has been an absolute blast doing this first episode, and certainly look forward to this potentially each week or bi-weekly throughout the season moving forward. We have a lot of fun stuff coming up, including the MLB draft, the All-Star game. We talked about Adam Frazier's push to make that team with the Fort McHenry. And of course, we'll have more awesome guests like the Fort joining this very show in the near future. Thank you so much for spending some time with Yins Are Crazy. For Elliot Hicks, Dave Stagon, Michael McHenry, I'm Mike Nicastro, always reminding you guys out there, stay crazy. We'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
So pit, oh yeah, Yins are crazy. This is it right here, Yins are crazy. So pit, oh yeah, Yins are crazy. This is it right here, Yins are crazy.
I know Yins are crazy, but so am I. #1 sports site in the Berg, let me show you why. The latest stories and unbeatable podcast with your favorite athletes.